In 2025, I'm projecting a huge increase in the sales and production of AI agents because the demand is huge. Search for AI agents on Google Trends, and you can see that over the last 5 years, certainly in the last few months, there's been a huge spike in the search term for AI agents. There is a lot of demand. There's a lot of people searching for this term, which means that you can make a lot of money from it. This is how the AI agent works. So whenever a message has been sent to the Telegram bot, which is Jeeves in this example, it will then basically grab the inputs. So is that voice, text, or image? And if you stick around until the end of the video, I'll show you how to build the Telegram bot and this AI agent system. If it's audio, it will go to this part of the flow. It will grab the audio and it will actually transcribe the audio. If it's text, it will just grab the text. And if it's an image, it will download the image and actually use ChatGPT to describe the image. Once we have all the assets, we can then plug it into this Ask Jeeves AI agent. And what this does in this example and in this scenario is that it will actually use a Google Sheet, which is a bestseller sheet for this fictitious business, or it can handle customer support issues. And what it does is it will basically access this sheet, which I've just created as an example. It's got some bestsellers off Amazon and a few other sites. Now imagine you're working for a e-commerce solution, or you're running an e-commerce business yourself, right? You can sell this system and get off the ground really, really quickly. Not only can it answer questions about bestsellers, it can even handle customer support. So if you've got any customer support issues, you can get rid of all your VAs or all your customer support applications and you can build it inside of N8N. Once it has the information, it will then identify whether it's voice, text, or image. And based on the outputs, it will actually send an audio response back to Telegram, or it will just reply with a message that's just a text message in Telegram. Before I move on to the AI agent, let me show you how to set up the API key inside of OpenAI. So if you haven't done so already, head over to platform.openai.com. You can go to dashboard here and you can go to API keys. So this is where you generate a new API key. Just create the key there, call it whatever you want. I normally just call it whatever the automation is called or whatever the video I'm recording for my YouTube channel is called, and then it will generate the key. Now this is a paid plan, so you are going to need some credits. And so just go to billing, go to your profile, and then you just want to add some credits to your balance. Now, typically I just put in like $10, which honestly lasts me about 6 months for all my automations, for everything I do on YouTube and for my clients, because I use, language models that are quick, but are very affordable, right? So you're just going to need to top up. You can actually start with $5 inside of here, pay as you go, and it's going to last you for months and months. So the first thing you need to do, if you haven't done so already, is sign up for Telegram. It's a completely free messaging app, similar to WhatsApp or something like Signal. And then you want to find the bot folder. So I'm actually using this on my browser through web.telegram.org. And the bot folder is just their automated bot creating solution. So you go inside of here, click on start, and then it'll basically ask you to create a new bot. But what are you going to call it? So there is a specific kind of syntax in how you create it, but you can just call it whatever you want. So I'm just going to call it random test YouTube bot. Now you need to create a username, but it has to have the underscore bot at the end. So let's just see if this works. Done. Congratulations. That's it. Now, all you need from here is the API key, which is the access token here. This is what you want to basically trigger the automation. And keep this safe, because if somebody has this, they can actually access your Telegram bot. Now that we have the Telegram bot created, we can now start the automation. So the automation is triggered by the Telegram on message node. And the trigger is the most important part, because this is what starts the automation. So what you want to do is head over to the notes panel on the right here, find Telegram, scroll down to the bottom where it says triggers, and then the one you want is on message. That's what's going to trigger this one here. So if I go inside of here, you'll see that it's connected to a credential called Jeeves, which is what I've created. To do that, you just want to click on the drop down, create a new credential, call it whatever you want. So I recommend you call it whatever the bot name is. And then the access token is what you paste here. The base URL is always going to stay the same. When you click on save, if it's worked and it's the correct API key, then you'll see a green successfully connected button. I'll show you what that looks like. It looks like this. So connection tested successfully. That's what you want to look for, okay? And that's what's going to trigger the automation. So for this example, I sent it on audio because I want to show you the audio part of this flow here. But before we could do that, we need a switch. So head over back to the nodes panel, look for the switch, which is this node here. And effectively what I'm asking the switch node is to identify whether it's voice, text, or image, because Telegram can handle all three formats. So the rules are, the first one is voice. So if I grab this voice ID here, this file, then it will basically identify it as voice. And this is a Boolean expression, right? Boolean, it just means, is it true or false? If it's true, then we're going to rename the output and we're going to call it voice. And what that means is that I've got a column for each. I've got one for voice, one for text, one for image. In this example, it's voice because I sent a voice message over. So it's triggered the voice aspect of the condition. If it's a message, if it's a text message, then if that's true, then the output is going to be text. So then that will trigger this column here and it will just be text. If it's an image, which the Telegram application calls photo as the field name, if that's equal to true, then we're going to rename the output as image, and then you'll see it come up on this side. And obviously I'll run all three. I'm just kind of dealing with the voice aspect of the automation right now. So once we know that it's voice, we're going to go to this part of the flow here. The first thing we want to do is download the audio. So for that, you're going to need an HTTP request node, which is this one here. And if I go inside of here, it's a GET request because we want to pull it down from the server. And so the way this works is that this is the API, right? The base API. Then this is the bot name. So your bot will have an ID. So you just put bot and an ID, colon, and then the rest of this is your API key. Okay, that's all it is. Then the rest of the URL is get file up to this point here. And then we just need the ID, the file ID. And you get that from this here, which is this value here. Sorry, this value here. Just drag and drop this one here. You know it's worked because it's got the output on the right hand side. So the way anytime works is that you have the input, you have the function or expression, and then you have the output, right? So for this example, this is the node, this is the input, and this is the output. You know it's worked because I've got the file ID and it's pulled it across. And you can see here that the file path is voice/file1 OGA. That's the .oga is the file extension that they use. So once we have that, we can now get the file. Okay, so this is another HTTP request node. It's another GET request. This time what we need to do is we need to use this URL again, and which is your bot name and the access token. And then you know it's worked because it's got the green output here. When you run that, you'll see the data file. And you can see that the extension now is an octet-stream. And this is effectively just what I spoke on Telegram to trigger this automation. Now that we have the file, we can transcribe it. So for this, you want to head over to the nodes panel, type in open, then you want to go down to the bottom here. And the one that you want is the audio actions and it's transcribe a recording. Grab that. Let's go back inside of here. So you want to connect to an OpenAI credential. If you haven't done so, just head over to platform.openai.com and you can connect there. Once you have that, just grab the API key. And what you want to do is just create a new credential. You just paste the API key here. The organization ID is optional and just give it a name. You know it's worked because once you connect it, it will just say connection tested successfully. And then the operation is transcribe a recording because that's what we wanted to do. That's what we're asking it to do. And the input file name is just data because that's what the file is called inside of the NA to N node. And then once it's transcribed, this is exactly what I spoke into Telegram. What are your bestsellers? That was it. The next part of the flow is going to handle the text. So for that, you need a set fields node. So just do a search for set or edit fields. We're going to look inside of here and it's a manually mapped field. I've called it text. You can call it whatever you want. The value is string and then we're getting the message text. So if you go down to the bottom, you can see here that I just asked it, what is your bestsellers, which is what is your bestsellers. And then it basically outputs this as a text variable. And that's easier to deal with because then I can just plug it into the Ask Jeeves AI agent. The third branch of the switch node will handle the images. So the first one is a download image node. This is another HTTP request. If you open this up, it's a get method. And this is the URL that you need. So this is the base URL. This is the bot that I've created. This is the API key for the bot. And then all this will stay. The only thing you need from the actual equals is going to be the message file ID. And that's from this here. So if you go down, you can find it here. And it's this one here. Just drag it over. And when you run it, you'll see an output. But the most important thing we need is the file path, which is this value here. So then the next node is going to be the get image file because now we've downloaded it, we can get it. It's another HTTP request node. It's the same URL up to this point, which is the API key. And then after the /, you just want to add the file path, which is from the previous node, which is this one here, the photos /file on the 2 JPEG. Then you have that, but there's an issue because the actual file extension is an octet stream --stream. And that's something that's not compatible with ChatGPT, OpenAI at this moment in time, which is why the next node is going to be a convert to JPEG node. So what this means is you want to get a code node, which is this one here. And if I open it up, there's just a simple code string here in JavaScript, which will take the octet string and then convert it into image JPEG. So if you run it, you'll see it here. This is now compatible. This is image-JPEG. This will now be compatible with the AI agent, which is Ask Jeeves. Once you have the image, we can then use ChatGPT to analyze the image. So go over to the nodes panel, do a search for OpenAI. And then this time we want to do the image actions, analyze the image. Click inside of here, connect to your OpenAI credentials. The resource is image. The operation is analyze the image. You can use 4.0 mini for this. It does a great job. Or you can upgrade to the latest version of the language model, which is 4.0 latest. But just bear in mind that the latest model will be more expensive and it typically takes longer to respond. The text input is just what's in this image. It doesn't need to be too complicated. The input type is a binary file because this is a physical file that we are analyzing. And then the input name is whatever this is called, which is data. And then you want to simplify the output. Okay, so make sure this is toggled. When you test a step, you'll see that it will basically transcribe the image. And so what I uploaded into Telegram was an image that said, what are your best sellers? That's it. Now that we have everything we need, we can go ahead and build the AI agent. So this is a very flexible node. You find it by doing a search for AI agent. And what I love about the AI agents in n8n is that you can attach any tools that you want. So for this example, I'm using Google Sheets because it's a very simple use case, but you can plug in Airtable, Notion, Gmail, literally any tool that you can think of. And if you wanted to work for, say, an e-commerce business or brand, you can just replace these modules with something like Shop, because that's how flexible this entire system is. So head over inside of the AI agent, which I've called Ask Jeeves. And the agent, we're going to use tools agent. We're going to define the prompt below. And so for this prompt, I've just added the text field if it's just the text. For everything else, if the above is an image displaying an issue related to customer support, please refer to the appropriate Google Sheet. Okay, and I'll show you what that looks like. And if it has a potential customer support, it will then use the Google Sheet, which is this sheet here. And I've just created this as an example. If you go inside of the Google Sheets here, you'll see that you can add some predefined solutions in here for, like FAQs, that kind of stuff, right? So this is a very simple way for you to handle customer requests as a perfect use case to kind of showcase what the AI agent can do. Heading back to the AI agent, the system message is always going to be the most important part of an AI agent because you need to give it some context. So let me just open this up. I put in here quite a long prompt. And this is basically saying that you are a helpful AI assistant with memory and knowledge capabilities. You are aware of the current date and time, which can now be accessed using this variable here, which is just the date time function inside of n8n. And that's important because if you have like a timeline for like user requests or anything else, then you definitely want to use the date time, right? Because otherwise it's just going to be random date times that the AI agent is going to use. So give it some context, give it a starting point. Support. Your role is to support users by providing quick, accurate, and friendly responses. You are equipped with access to specific Google Sheets which contain important information. So for my example, it was the bestsellers and the customer service, right? It's the same sheet with just different tabs. So the product information is bestsellers, and I've just given it some context. And depending on what application you're using, if it's Notion, Airtable, if it's an e-commerce platform like Shopify, you will then amend this part of the prompt to just kind of give it context in whatever you're using, okay? You also want to be very specific in what you want the AI agent to do. So be very specific in the inputs if you want a very specific output. This is very important. Then whenever a user asks about a product or mentions something related to your product offerings, your job is to access the bestseller sheet, retrieve the relevant information, refer specifically to the product description column for accurate, clear, and concise details about any mentioned product. So for me, this would be this tab here, and we've got the product description here, right? So again, this is going to be contextually relevant to you. If you want to put different information here, go ahead. If you want to connect up different applications, that's also fine. And then it just gives it some context about what the bestsellers contains. And I've told it for support issues, you want to use the customer support sheet, which is just the second tab. So if I go back to this seller sheet, it's just this tab here, right? That's all I'm telling it to do. And then I'm just giving it some context, again, some more rules. And then for memory handling, I've just added the super base, which is get memory. And I'll show you how to connect and configure that shortly. So the rule is always call get memory node before generating a response. This just gives it more of a context window. And the reason I'm using Superbase for this is because it's free. It's free to connect, it's free to use. And the memory is used for what the user is looking for, their problems, objections, and challenges, products they are interested in, key insights about their needs, product recommendations, gift ideas, birthdays, or any relevant details. Now, if you have a massive database of information that the user can retrieve, then this is going to be perfect for you because it's going to give you a larger context window and it's going to give the AI agent more memory to work with. And then again, it's just giving it more context. And this is the handling rule. So once the AI agent responds back to the user inside of Telegram, if the user asks for a product link, you must check the bestsellers sheet and retrieve the correct product link from it. So if I go back to my bestseller sheet, you'll see that each product has a product link. And I've just found these are just random made up examples, but I've got the links from these various links here, okay? And again, I've given it some more rules and then just signed off with your ultimate goal is to deliver helpful answers, solve user problems seamlessly, provide product information with clarity, all while making the experience feel natural and intelligent. This is very important because I want the conversation with the AI agent to feel very natural, very organic. So when it comes to automations and AI agents, you're going to need a language model. So for this, I'm using 4.0 Mini. It's very affordable, it's super quick, and you connect it up with your OpenAI credentials that you should have created earlier in this video if you haven't done so already. Then the next node is going to be a Windows buffer memory. For this, I've set the context to 20. So context is just how many conversations can the AI agent go back to in the chat. So for example, I'm using Telegram for this. How many previous conversations can it use to basically give your users a better output? And the more context it has, the better output it's generally going to produce, okay? For the session ID, we're just going to define it below, and you just want to grab the message ID from the first node. For me, it's the message Jeeves node, which is this one here. So if I go back to the first node, it's just a message ID in here. For this one, this is bestsellers. So I'm going to look at the first sheet, which is bestsellers, and we are going to add some filters. So for the first one is data location on sheet, just the range definition, just select data to detect it automatically, and the AI agent will do that, right? And then read rows until the first row, empty row. So for this, it'll read the entire sheet until it gets to this point here. And I'm asking the AI agent to do this because it has the brain, it has the capacity to do this, right? I don't want it to micromanage every task that it handles. That's the first one for bestsellers. The next one is for customer support. So this time it's the same sheet, but now this time it's the same document, but now we're selecting the second sheet, which is customer support. And this is just the context that I'm showing you in. And for the filters, we're going to use range definition, which is automatic, and the read rows until first row empty. So again, the same point. So now if I go back to the same sheet and open up the second tab, you're going to see that it's going to read everything up until this point here, which is the first empty row. Then the last node you're going to want is a Superbase node. So for this, you just open up Superbase, right, which is this node here. So let me just bring up Superbase. I'll show you how to connect that shortly. Now, the reason I recommend using a database solution like Superbase is because you can use it as a knowledge base. So I've trained the AI agent to basically look at the database, see if the question or whatever the query is has been answered before, and then just take the response from the memory column here. If it doesn't exist, create a new row, add it in there, and update it. This is a growing knowledge base. It will retrieve information, but it can also add to it. And this is very important because it really gives you a premium service when you're trying to sell something like this. So head over to superbase.com, just sign up for a free account. And then from the project overview, you should see, it should be blank, and you could create a new project. Just follow the on-screen instructions, super easy. I've created it here. So this is the test database I'm gonna create for this. Now there's just a couple of fields that we need, or a couple of columns. So go to the table editor. We're going to create a new table, give it a name. So we'll just call it sales table for now. And then we're just going to uncheck this. And then, like I said, we want two columns. So the first one is going to be memory, and that's where we're going to save the text from the input. And then for this, we want text. And the next one is session ID, and that is also a text. And then save that. And then once it's done, it's actually saved. And this is what you reference once you're inside of the node. So if you go back to the Superbase node here, you select the table name, which is whatever you just called it. This is what mine is called, and that's about it. Once it's running, you'll see all this information that's stored on the table. Now that you have the output, you can now respond back to the user inside of Telegram. So what we're going to use for this is another switch mode, because now we need to identify, is it voice, is it text, or is it image, based on whatever they inputted. For this example, we're going to do voice because that's the part of the flow, and it's exactly the same as the first one. You can just duplicate it. It's completely, it's the same as the first switch. Then the next node you're going to need is an OpenAI audio node. So find it in the panel here, and the one that you want is generate audio. So if I click inside of here, you're going to connect it up to your OpenAI account. The resource is audio, the operation is generate audio. You can leave everything as it is. The text input is going to be the output from the switch, or you can take it from the AI agent. It doesn't really matter. And you can select the voice depending on what you want, okay? That's it. Once you test it, you can actually play it. So
here are some of our products along with their descriptions and links. 1. Atomic Habits.
So it's pretty good, right? You've got a voice activated response. And again, it just makes you stand out from the crowd and makes you really competent. And so that's the audio node done. And then what we need for the last one is just a send message. So find the Telegram node. And for this, we're just going to send a message. So it's just message actions and it's send a message, which is this one here. And then basically what you want to do is the resource is going to be message. The operation, you're just going to send audio because it's a file, right? So we just send an audio file. And then from here, you just want to select the previous node, which is the chat ID from the first message, Jeeves node, which is the trigger. This time it's a binary file because we're actually sending an audio file, right? It's not JSON or anything like that. And then the import binary field is data because that's what this file is called. And everything else, you can just leave it as blank. You know it's worked because you'll see the output here. But more importantly, if you go back to the bot inside of Telegram, you'll see that it's the same audio message.
Along with their descriptions and links. 1. Atomic Habits, Lat W.
Next, we want to handle the text. So from the text switch, you want to add a send message node, which is for Telegram. And the operation is obviously send message. The chat ID is always the same. It's just the same message. Chat ID from the first node, which is message Jeeves. The output is text, and we just grab the output from the previous nodes. Okay, so that could be from the voice, text, or image, or even Ask Jeeves. Doesn't really matter. And then you can leave everything else the same. Once you test it, you'll get output like this. But more importantly, if you go inside of the bot, you'll see it here. So I put in a prompt that said, send me a list of your bestsellers. And so this is basically grabbed everything from the sheet and it's giving me the price. You can be more descriptive as well. Like you can say, what's your best-selling dress, or what's your best-selling table, or what colors does XYZ come into, what sizes, etc. So you can be way more descriptive. I'm just giving you a very simple use case for this. And once we've done that, we can then create a new row inside a Superbase. So just find the Superbase node again. This time we are going to create a row, which is this option here. And if we go inside of the node here, I'm just saving it to memory. So if there's anything new, any new type of interaction, we're just going to save it to the same database that we created earlier. The resources row, the operation is create. You just select the same table name or ID, whatever you called it inside a Superbase. For me, this is the Telegram sales agent. I've only got one table in here. And then we want the data send, we'll just define it below for each column. So for the field name or ID, it's memory. And for the field name or ID, this is another field that we can add. This is a session ID, which is a string because we created a string. And for this, we just need a chat ID from the previous node. So from this, it will just be this ID here. And that just gives it a unique number, right? Because whenever you create a table or row inside of Superbase, every row will have a unique identifier. So the easiest way to do this is to just use the ID that Telegram already creates. The final node is to respond if it's an image, and you can just duplicate this first one that says reply to user. I've called it respond to user because you can't have the same name on the node. So if I open it up, it's exactly the same as the one before it. The operation is a send message. We're going to get the same chat ID, and the output is the text from the previous two nodes. And that's about it. So whenever you send it and you test it, you'll see this. But more importantly, just go inside of Telegram and you'll see that I sent it an image that's what are your bestsellers, and it will come out with an output based on whatever the input is. So that's it for the automation. If you want to save time and just upload this, head over to my school community. If you go to Classroom and you go to AI automations and blueprints, just search for the one that says Jeeves, the sales AI agent. I've got a video here, which is pretty much what I've covered here. And also you've got the resources, which is the blueprint. So all you need to do is just upload this into your N8N account. I've also linked the bestseller sheet that I'm using for this as an example. But this is a great opportunity for you if you want to start an AI agency, if you want to sell AI agents, because there's a huge demand for this. This is what I'm doing for my agency. This is what I know for a fact other people are doing it that I connect to in this space. And it's a great time to kind of cash in on the demand. So if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel, leave me a thumbs up, turn your notifications on, and I'll see you next time.